Welcome to What's the Stack? I'm Emily Connigan.
And I'm Carly Shearman. Every day as tech recruiters, we're asking the question, what's the stack? So we thought we'd bring that question to life by asking some of our favourite Brisbane friends in the tech industry what their stack is over a stack of pancakes in the Brisbane's iconic church-turned 24/7 restaurant, the Pancake Manor.
Today we're meeting with none other than Marc Orchard. When it comes to being a part of the startup ecosystem here in Brisbane, there's no one else like Marc Orchard. He's just so amongst it. He's been there for, getting on the roller coaster ride for some of Brisbane's most successful startup stories, and he's also had a front row seat for when it hasn't gone so well as well.
Absolutely, he's worked for UQ's alumni, he's worked for Fish Burners, he's even worked for BDO, and now he's out on his new venture. And what I love about Marc so much is how generous he is with his insights and with his network with the community. And I remember when I first came into the industry, I met with him and I saved him as Brisbane's best human, and that's really stood the test of time.
So today we're going to talk all things startup with Marc, and I'm even going to use this as an opportunity for a bit of a Shark Tank. I'm going to pitch him shoes for dogs. I'm going to reinvent the sushi train. I'm asking for big bucks.
We're doing it all.
We're doing it all. Let's go and meet Marc.
Let's go meet Marc.
Marc, welcome to What's the Stack?
Thank you. I feel like it's a lifelong dream that started last year to be part of What's the Stack.
And what's the stack in front of you today?
That's a great question. So it's like the pancake equivalent of like tea and scones.
What is your stack?
Personally, from like a tech stack point of view, one of the things I find most fascinating as a non-technical person working with a whole heap of technical people, creating scalable tech companies and so forth.
You kind of taught me the term of being a hyper-connector, and you're absolutely a hyper-connector.
Yep.
How did you build that personal brand? And I guess from financial planning, like when I picture a financial planner, it is not Marc Orchard. So how did you build this brand?
When I first started in the startup ecosystem, I wasn't Steve Baxter. I didn't have like this big scalable tech company that I'd exited. I came into working with Fish Burners, the co-working space for tech startups, and I felt like what most people there wanted was somebody who had their back, but second of all, who could connect them to investors, to advisors, and to other opportunities, I guess. And so I figured the most important thing I could do was to become that person.
But something I'm absolutely fascinated by, but I've never actually asked you, this is why I wrote this, is how did you make the decision to leave the very linear and clear career path of being a financial planner to kind of go into your various roles?
Leaving financial planning wasn't hard because it was part of selling the firm.
Yes.
So I had to choose whether or not that was a term that I was happy to go with, and ultimately I was pretty burnt out after running my business for an extended period of time, and so a break from financial planning didn't seem like the worst thing. In regards to I guess moving through to my time at UQ and then through to Fish Burners, ultimately I think one of the things that comes up regardless of whether you're a tech developer, software, UI UX, or whether or not you're in a more business services support function, is that people need to solve problems. And so like one of the things I do advocate, whether it is with the startup founders themselves, whether it's the tech support or the tech teams around them, is that the best opportunities don't usually come from a CCAT, they usually come from your network, and being able to understand how to apply I guess a supportive mechanism around that. Like I wish that was focused on more as part of career development for everybody, if I'm frank.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the Brisbane tech ecosystem and startup sort of space, you've been in it for a number of years now. What is it that you love about tech startups in Brisbane?
The reason why tech startups matter is because the capacity to create like a really vibrant economy where there's a lot of money in the economy to be able to do high-paying jobs and so forth, all depends on us being able to have these really great, interesting founders wanting to take over the world and do it from Queensland.
Absolutely. The next question we have is kind of born from, in the Brisbane Startup Facebook group, every year you post this huge list of resources, which I absolutely love. So if you are a founder in the Brisbane Startup community, where do you go for resources and where do you look for kind of help?
There's some amazing meetup groups. There's some amazing online communities that I created over the pandemic, right? So there's fintech groups, there's blockchain groups, there's AI groups, there's pretty much anything you want to get into. There's Web3 groups. And so the idea is then to find your tribe.
When I think about Marc Orchard, the word authenticity comes to mind. Has maintaining authenticity been something you've actively had to try and work at, or what has the impact of being an authentic version of Marc had on your career?
For me, what I take authenticity is being like, just keep the promise that you make. So being able to differentiate yourself with something that is genuinely a promise that you care about and just keeping that over and over again.
Can you give us a whistle-stop tour of the startup funding process? So imagine I have a cracking business idea. I can give you one if you want. Where do I go from here?
Most importantly, is you just need something to demonstrate that people care, that like there is a real problem that people want to fix. And if you can bundle that into a pitch deck, then there's plenty of people that you can talk to. The biggest mistake we see most early stage founders make is that they want someone else to invest to pay for them to build their first working version of it. And look, sometimes it does cost a lot to get a first working version of something together. The tricky thing is in Australia, there's not a huge amount of investors that will just give you $200,000 to $500,000 to see if it works. And so the best tip I can give anybody, particularly with a technical background, is just build something. Like get something so you can see it.
Something I love about being a recruiter is kind of getting to look under the hood of all these different companies. What have you seen founders do really well, and what have you seen done terribly?
The best things that I see startups do is get advice early on from either a founder that they respect or a mentor or somebody like me who works in an advisory support, just to be able to make sure that they get the first 10 to 20 big decisions right. The second thing I see people do really well is be able to tell a great story and to have a product that people want. On the flip side, what have I seen not so great? Like I've seen some financial situations that are catastrophic. I've seen some businesses that don't even have like any of their business stuff together in one place one time. But probably the thing that makes me saddest, we have a team at BDO called the Business Restructure Team. And the Business Restructure Team is kind of like the ICU for businesses. And the thing that puts most of the time, the startups into that spot is co-founder conflict.
And in the name of combating that, like what would you recommend if you can recommend anything? Is it like doing like being a co-founder is almost like a marriage? Do you do it prenup?
Yep. So what I would suggest is being on the same page, getting some professional support. So whether that is like a founder coach or someone who can give you a bit of a personality or a behavioral profile to just be able to understand how each other works. And then most importantly is just to have each other's back. And so any conflict that happens between a founding team should happen behind closed doors. Go at it like cats and dogs when no one else is looking. But when you come out, you should all be on the same page, and anything from a culture and point of view, it all has to point towards the founding team being really rock solid. That would be my suggestions.
Cool. What emerging tech trend are you most excited about at the moment?
Australia's been a little bit behind the 8 ball in regards to how to actually support tech companies. And we are starting to see movement from the Tech Council of Australia, being more of an advocacy opportunity for us in startups. All the state governments are getting behind innovation more broadly, and now we're starting to see the fruits of that. And so for me, it's now the Olympics is the thing that excites me because it gives us a reason to move fast. Yeah. If we're going to be a carbon neutral or a carbon negative games, if we're going to want to be able to demonstrate smart city technology, Internet of Things and so forth, and ultimately we can use that to get funding partners from around the world, I think that this is literally the best time to be in tech in Queensland or Brisbane more specifically.
If you could only wear one shoe for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Be my Air Force Ones.
And I actually meant left or right.
Oh, right, left or right. I would pick my left.
What's your favourite nostalgic kids TV show?
Realistically, anything that has a 90s nostalgia theme song at the start, where you sit there and go, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm 5 again, particularly the superhero one, I'm down for that.
Do you have a hidden talent?
I have a thumb that's kind of double jointed.
Oh no.
Right? So we used to play jokes on my woodwork teacher all the time, where we'd bang the table and be like, oh, sir, look at my thumb. They'd freak out, send me to the sick bay. It was very funny. And anyway.
Awesome. Final question. What do you love about having a career in tech, even though you're non-technical?
Tech is one of the only industries where as an employee, even if you have no line of sight to management, you've just started, you actually get a golden ticket to be able to potentially share in the success of the company long term. The goal is to try and make as many people as passionate to do what they do on a day-to-day basis, and financial freedom gives you the chance to do that. So that's kind of why I get excited about tech.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on What's the Stack.
You're welcome, Emily. Carly, this is everything that I dreamed of, plus more. That's right.
Thank you so much.